Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for exploring the Master of Divinity program, or MDiv, here at Harvard Divinity School. My name is Margaret Okada-Sheck. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions here at HDS, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be able to introduce a little bit about Harvard Divinity School and what we're about. HDS is the first divinity school in the United States, founded in 1816, and we are the most religiously pluralistic divinity school in the world. So if you are really excited about pursuing your education in an environment where folks around you are from all sorts of different religious traditions and spiritualities, this is a really wonderful place to pursue your graduate training. HDS educates students in the academic study of religion in preparation for ethical leadership, religious literacy, and service-oriented, mission-driven work. This means that our students really do go beyond the sort of normal pathways, professional pathways that some might consider traditional for divinity schools. And you'll see further on when you speak with our student panelists, the real diversity of types of interests and professional goals portrayed here. Our vision really is to provide an intellectual home where scholars from around the globe teach varieties of religion in service of a just world at peace. The Master of Divinity program itself is one of our primary degree programs here. This is a 3-year full-time degree that is residential. We do not have an online version. This is really the program for folks that are interested in being skilled and trained in the ministerial arts, whatever that is. We define ministry incredibly broadly with a lowercase m. So really, it's for a wide variety of different folks who are interested in pursuing fields like chaplaincy or pastoral ministry or public religious leadership, but also in areas like higher education or education broadly, nonprofit leadership, government work, you name it, really. One of the things that I want to point out is that this is one of the degree programs that does provide institutional grant aid. And is a really it's really one of the primary ways that we're able to support our students here. Folks are in the program for 3 years, not only because they get access to a really strong academic scholarship, but they are also able to link theory and practice through our field education program. And I know Teddy and our students will discuss that as well. Field education, really, again, as I spoke of earlier, ministry here, we define really broadly as a call to serve others through things like traditional ordination, chaplaincy, nonprofit leadership. There are also folks that end up in PhD or doctoral programs and doing academic research. Students develop skills in the arts of ministry while they reflect theologically on what they are learning and practicing. Our field education program is phenomenal, really providing students a wide variety of different opportunities to have guided learning experiences. So again, and those field education placements are paid because we do support our students in that way, as well as through our institutional grant aid. So we do provide a small portion of merit aid to all applicants. That is really just based on the strength of the application. There's nothing additional anyone has to do. Really, we believe in supporting our students who need it the most. So the vast majority of our resources are put into the need-based aid program. 90% of our students in the MDiv program receive need-based financial aid, generally speaking. And this is just based on a financial aid application. Our base package for anyone who shows financial need is 75% tuition grant, to a full tuition grant, to a full tuition grant, and a $12,000 living stipend. We're going to have other information sessions later on this fall. So if you have questions, please do reach out. The application for admission is now available if you are interested in fall 2024. That application is just a regular form. We've got a statement of purpose, your resume, transcripts, letters of recommendation, a writing sample, and for a select few, an interview is required. The deadline is January 4th. The financial aid application will also be published in the beginning of the year, and that deadline will be mid-February. And then we release decisions in mid-March. So we encourage you all to really consider coming to some of our other virtual events or checking out our recordings. We have an event tomorrow and the next day, which we hope will be helpful to you all as you continue the discernment and preparation process for your application. Please feel free to reach out to us in admissions if you have any questions. Our social media, like our Instagram account, and our admissions blog is a really great resource for folks who are interested in just learning more and gaining some more information about the folks in our community. And so I am absolutely thrilled to be able to introduce our moderator for this evening, Associate Dean for Ministry Studies, Teddy Hickman-Maynard, as well as our student panelists, Taylin Lancaster, Stephanie Hollenberg, and Madeline Bugo-Hart. Thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you so much for to the audience for your attention and for listening. Take it away, Teddy.
Thank you so much, Margaret, for welcoming us and for that introduction. We have a lot of ground to cover in a very short amount of time, so we're going to get right into it. And I think the best part about this session is for students who are going through the program right now to be able to speak candidly and honestly to prospective students about their experience. The goal here is not to sell you all on HDS. We're not trying to convince you to come. Our goal is to share our experiences as honestly as we can so that you have the information you need to decide whether or not HDS is right for you. If it is right for you, then we want you here. And if it's not right for you, then we want you to be finding the place that is going to be best for you, your vocational discernment, your professional development, and for your own spiritual life. So that's our goal and purpose tonight. And we're going to start with a simple question. Simple, but certainly not the simple question, probably not a simple answer. What drew you to Harvard Divinity School, and why did you choose the MDiv program? So that's the big question everybody always wants to ask for students who are here with us is why Harvard Divinity School and why the MDiv program? So I'm going to go in the order that I see you all on my screen. So let's start with Madeline, and then we'll go to Taylin, and then Stephanie.
Sure. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I can't see your faces, but I know that you're all out there, and so nice to meet you all virtually. Thank you for having me, and Margaret for the awesome intro. Okay, so I'm going to get right to it because I know we don't have a lot of time. What drew me to Harvard Divinity School, I towed around Harvard Divinity School for years. I literally, it would be like me in the bushes being like, should I? No, I can't. I went to an open house. I left the open house, and it just felt like a really big commitment and scary, and I wasn't sure if I was ready or if it was a good fit for me. So, but I will say, man, oh man, am I glad that I came here. Obviously, the name Harvard drew me. I'll just be honest. It's a very esteemed institution. The location drew me. My whole family is in the area. But I think in terms of the MDiv program, what excited me about it was that it was interfaith. I was, and still am in many ways, spiritually unclaimed. I grew up really secular. So the idea of studying with people from all different traditions felt right on. I also am an artist and came from a theater background, and it felt like Harvard Divinity and the MDiv specifically had a lot of space there for me. Like there was a lot of space for me to come exactly as I was. And I think the last thing I'll say is there seemed to be, and it has proven to be true, a real commitment on HDS's part to keep the line really taut between the classroom and the quote real world. And I see that especially in field education, but there is and in terms of social justice, I think especially, but that commitment to bridge that gap so that we're not being, quote, if you will, cloistered away, only to be spit back out at the end. I don't feel removed at all from the outside world, and that felt really exciting for me and still does. So I'll turn it over. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. What drew me to Harvard Divinity School, in particularly the Master of Divinity program, was really its robust nature, and not only from non-religious studies, but primarily liberation theology. And of course, Dean Teddy has been a great influence to me as he's a practical theologian and my academic advisor. And so I felt as if that was a good pairing, being that I'm looking at more expansive and holistic ways to incorporate ministry practices in the Black ecclesial space. And so as a senior pastor and a second-year Masters of Divinity candidate, it has been a great experience as it is that I have embarked upon this historic moment in my life and even in my intellectual journey. And so it was one of those things where I looked at it from a perspective that it would give me the tools that would help me to better cater to humanity within my context, while being aware of the many religious and non-religious traditions that exist in the world and are still viewed as sacred, in my opinion. And so I really would suggest anyone that can and will to hop on the train of Harvard Divinity School. We've gotten a few converts as well who initially didn't come in as Master of Divinity candidates or students. However, they felt the need for that practical aspect. And of course, Harvard Divinity School has a lot of different theoretical frameworks by which we operate in, but it's good to know that there's also a degree of practicality that is being emphasized by the Harvard Divinity School program, which is what drew me to pursue my Master of Divinity here at Harvard Divinity School.
Thank you, Taylin. Thank you, Madeline. Thank you, Dean Teddy. What drew me to HDS and this MDiv program? I, like Madeline, come with an artist background. I have a master's degree in vocal performance and was in that world in classical music for a number of years. And I really felt like I wanted to bring together my passions and my work with music and spirituality as well. And this felt like a place where I could bring together those worlds and explore the intersection of them. I also was very drawn to the multi-faith aspect. I grew up Christian, but I've always been interested in ecumenism and multi-faith spaces, cross-faith dialogue. And so this felt like a place where I could expand my frame and do that within a less traditional space where, not in a traditional seminary space. So that's been really exciting for me, really rich. And yeah, that's what brought me here.
All right. Thank you all very much for those wonderful words. Now it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty. We're going to get real, and we're going to share what you find most challenging about your experience at HDS. And let's zigzag in reverse order now. So we'll go with Stephanie and then Taylor and then Maddie.
Thank you for that question. The first thing that really comes to mind is that it is maybe not Harvard specific, but in any institution, you're going to bump up against what your expectations were coming into the program and what the reality is. And so I think I spent a good part of my first year in the program just sort of recalibrating and seeing what I thought would be my experience and what actually was possible here at HDS. You know, adjusting to the student body. This is not a music school, you know, and so there's definitely an adjustment period. Harvard as well, you know, it has this incredible name and people know Harvard, but Harvard also has some ghosts as well. A lot, actually. And so also just becoming familiar with that history and reckoning with it, massaging it, being in conversation about it with faculty and students has, I think, made the experience here very real in a way that I didn't expect, and a bit difficult as well. Yeah, and as I said a moment ago, I think, you know, this is not a music school, and because my interests are music and spirituality, it can be a little bit lonely as well, as I try to nurture my interests and longings. So there is some real like self-commitment that it takes, I think. Yeah, in being here. I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'd say for me, one was the weather. I am a native from Florida, and I just graduated recently from Clark Atlanta University. And so I was not accustomed to the northeast nor the wind, and just getting used to, you know, kind of layering up in the winter was an adjustment for me, as well as being that I am a product of an HBCU, a historically Black college or university. It was different coming into a space in which I wasn't the majority, but now I'm the minority. But the beauty of that is that it was really easy for me to create community, not only amongst diversity, but even to find community across the universities and even graduate degree programs. And so it's important for you to know and take note that Harvard Divinity School allows you to cross-register at other graduate programs, which allows you to create community outside of HDS, although I have been able to somewhat situate myself in this new environment. And so I would just say, get ready to bundle up and get ready to be open to the possibilities of relationships, of connections that are essentially lifelong, especially as you're navigating graduate school.
Thank you. Thanks, Taylor. Thank you. Oh yeah, the winters are long. I think the first one, if I'm being totally honest, is it's expensive to go to grad school. And I have been so privileged to be a recipient of a lot of aid. And it's still hard in terms of balancing being a full-time student, which like it is a full-time gig. It's not like it's not like, oh, well, you know, so trying to also recognize like we have to live, and living in Cambridge is expensive. And that's been a challenge at certain parts. I will say on that though, like asking for help, it goes a long way. And I'm sure I'll touch on this more, but the community is so incredible and from top to bottom. And so being vocal about your needs, which is really hard to do, to be vulnerable about that. But there are people there who want to help you and will be really human with you and walk you through. So that was my one. And my second one is when Dean David Hempton was the dean up until very recently, he said, on one of our first orientation days, when I was a new student, he was like, one of the hardest things is going to be to say no. And I was like, yeah, okay. He was like, no, like every single day. And this is true. There is a plethora of things that you can do. There are lectures, there are clubs, there are classes, there are events, there are like, you could pack every single day with the most incredible stuff, and saying no has been really hard for me. And as a result, I'm still wrestling with this. Like I'll do the 5 to the 10 p.m. and you miss out actually when you don't create some spaciousness for yourself. So if you do come here, try to prioritize making some space, because oh man, there's a lot of, you'll be a kid in a candy store. Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's so much there I want to dig into, but I want to go to the next question, and I might circle back and ask some of you to go a little deeper in what you just said. But the third sort of framing question that we'll ask is, what surprised you about Harvard Divinity School? And we'll start with, let's go with Taylin, and then Madeline, and then Stephanie. What surprised you?
What surprised me was well, first and foremost, historically, we should know that Harvard in the grand scheme of things was initially started as a school training ministers. And so that rich history, to know that I am a part of the African American prophetic preaching tradition, that this space essentially was made to really groom and develop ministerial leaders. And so that was one thing that really surprised me. Outside of that, another thing that surprised me was that it wasn't so much about the big H, but the little H. And I think that's really the heart, and how it is that people are so friendly, so welcoming. And, really Harvard Divinity School is really I would say the heart pulse for the entire university. And it speaks not only through our web of relationships with others in the university-wide scheme and everything. But I would say for me, it was those two things. Realizing that it's not all about Harvard and what it is that the name represents. Of course, it comes with benefits and privilege, but ultimately it's the heart and the humanity that people exist with here that is surprising and really, really awe-inspiring.
Yeah, so nice. Two things that surprised me. I think I inadvertently thought I was going to seminary. Like I was sort of ready to like put my wimple on and like be real, and it's not seminary. It's very academic, and like lucky for me, I really like those spaces too and love to learn. But I think it was surprising to me just how academic the structure was versus what I imagined, still I've never been, what a seminary would look like. What surprised me and still surprises me to this day is how much it changed me. And I think that's one of the reasons why I hesitated to come in the first place, is I was actually kind of scared of that, to be shaped into something else. But man, like go on that ride, because I changed a lot in this time here. And yet I think the design of the program is to change you into something, become the more substantial person you're supposed to be, that can better serve the world. And so I landed in some really, if you said to me 3 years ago, like you'd be interested in, or I'd be like, oh, no, but so like go on the ride. But it did surprise me.
Great answers. It's fun to hear. I'd love to hear the whole student body respond to this question. Yeah, one thing that surprised me, I came because I was interested in a multi-faith space, but I think I was really surprised by the diversity, like how diverse the student body is. It's a really extraordinary peer group who are coming from education backgrounds, law, activism, ecology, art, and it really makes it very exciting. It also can make you feel like, oh my gosh, who am I? But then I'm the musician in the room, so maybe they're looking at me like that because they don't come from a music background. Anyway, it's a really cool exchange, and it's really fun to become thought partners with such a diverse group of people. And just to pick up on something that Taylin said about the Div School being sort of the heart of the university, I think that surprised me as well. I kind of picked up on that. The Div School functions as sort of the religion department of the entire university. And so you will have undergraduates or people from other graduate schools who are in class with you. So the diversity even extends beyond the Div school, which is really exciting. And to that end as well, you may have seen Harvard popping into the news as it confronts parts of its difficult history with colonialism and slavery. And I've been really moved actually to see how the Div school has embraced these conversations amongst faculty and staff and students with courage and integrity, you know, to the best of our ability, and with vision as well. So that's been really beautiful to see. There's a real culture of care here as we hold difficult conversations around current events as well. So I've been grateful to see that and be part of that.
Thank you all so much. We actually got some questions ahead of time from our attendees, so I'm going to ask a few of those. But I also want to leave a little time for any questions that might be emerging among our attendees as they're listening to you all now in real time. But I'm going to go through those questions first that they asked ahead of time. There are two questions that are a little bit related. So any of you can answer this, but I'm particularly interested in how Stephanie and Maddie might answer this. They're interested in what the benefits of the MDiv degree are if you're not working within traditional ministry, within what we consider to be traditional religious leadership. But then they also asked about what does it feel like to be a student whose undergraduate work maybe wasn't related to ministry or religion, and how that influences the experience. So Taylor, you might be able to respond to that as well, but from both angles, both coming in, what if religion or ministry is not my background, or going out, what if professional religious leadership is not where I'm headed? How do those two different positionalities show up in your HDS experience, or even the experience of maybe colleagues that you can speak about who have had interesting stories in that regard? And anybody can jump in.
I'll jump. I'm ready to jump. Oh, wow. Yeah, great questions. Questions I'm still sort of wondering myself. I think the thing that has blown me out of the water about HDS is the amount of trust and enthusiasm the institution provides. So I came in as like this weird experimental theater artist, and there was like a big old yes on the door, and a really for lack of a better phrase, like a long leash that was given to me to do what I needed to do. And that trust was everything. And also just in terms of leaving the program, which will be at the end of this year for me, I'm working on my senior thesis right now, which is re-envisioning the Mr. Rogers show. And I think to answer the question, it's like, anytime my little brain was like, I can't, Harvard Divinity School was like, but you can. And like, here's some resources, and like, here's some conversation partners. And so I know this is like kind of corny to say, but like, whatever you're dreaming, like whatever the back thought is that's like pushing you towards this school, even with like a varied background or a varied vision of where this could lead, like you're going to have a big green light and a lot of like hand-holding, not in like a patronizing kind of way, but like hand-holding and accompaniment to give you the strength to move forward into new ways of ministry. There's like a lot of cutting edge work being done in terms of what ministry means.
Thanks, Madeline. Yeah, so I've worked in the professional music spaces, in some music spaces here in Boston, and I have also done a lot of church work as well as a musician. And I have never felt called to ministry in the church, directly in the church. I sort of got into that, doing music in churches, because I was a gigging musician. And while I've deeply appreciated being in those spaces, I've really been looking for ways to bring together my music and spiritual care of others in sort of a new container, to create a new container or to find a container in which those can come together. So HDS felt like a space where I could explore those meeting points. And actually, in my first semester here at HDS, I learned about chaplaincy, and a big light bulb went off in my brain. And I was like, of course, chaplaincy. My grandfather had been a volunteer chaplain in his retirement, and it just feels like a really beautiful way to care for others, and a beautiful way to bring opportunity to bring music into those spaces as well. So I am very much in, like Madeline, I'm very much still asking a lot of questions about how those things can come together. But I think what I really found is that the professional music world didn't embody some of the values that my spirituality longs for and my spiritual expression longs for. So yeah, I'm figuring out how to bring those together.
Yeah, I would like to add to that as well, Stephanie. You know, coming into this space, you know, you may come in with a particular notion of who it is that you want to become, but as you continually map out your trajectory, you start to notice that you're continually ever evolving. Every day we're becoming. But more than anything, although I have been very much so kind of focused on, you know, the pastorate and leading in the Black ecclesial space, I've also noticed that I'm still seeking for ways to make impact, seeking for ways to engage with other communities through interfaith dialogue. And so though you may be coming in once again with this idea of what it is that you want to study and who it is that you want to become, it's important to also make note that you're going to always be seeking. And although, you know, I've somewhat fulfilled a dream of mine to pastor a historic Black church, I'm still seeking ways to engage, and much like Stephanie and Madeline's a notion of intersectionality in my work, because in this day and age, as we live in a new paradigm, we have to look at how it is that we can kind of have joint collaboration, not only for justice, not only for reconciliation, but for whatever area of interest that may be of yours.
I want to pick up on a question that was asked before about spiritual development. So the person asked, you know, they understand that there are going to be academic and intellectual development of students in you know, the high level classroom settings that HDS provides. But the person asked, where does spiritual development show up for people at HDS? How are people developing through more experiential approaches in terms of embodiment, in terms of wisdom practices, in terms of, you know, some of the more, you know, somatic and subtle kinds of ways of forming yourself for leadership and for ethical leadership and for ministry that don't necessarily show up in a traditional classroom? Where does that show up for folks? How are people developing that? And if it shows up in the classroom, where has it shown up in the classroom for you? The answer, of course, could be no. It hasn't shown up in the classroom at all. I get that elsewhere. But if it has shown up in the classroom for you, where has that been? And maybe we start with Taylor this time, especially as someone who is engaging in what we would call traditional ministry. And even within traditional ministry, you're doing congregational leadership, which is probably even more of a minority among those pursuing traditional ministry, doing the work that you do, where spiritual formation is such a big part of your vocation. How has that part of your need for professional development in your body, in your spirit, how has that shown up for you at HDS, both inside and outside the classroom?
Yes, Dean Teddy, it has shown up for me in various ways. Of course, we know that we're living in perilous in perilous times, of course, with everything occurring with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and just in this past week, with all of us coming with our emotions and our sensibilities around this topic, seeing it on the news, on social media, it's been very daunting. But to see my faculty and my professors take the time to hold space was really a direct correlation for me as a pastor going into the pulpit this Sunday to say, hey, before it is that we even offer a prayer, a meditation, let us just hold space in silence. And so that's a spiritual practice to me that says that, okay, we're aware of everyone's emotional capacity, and even where it is that you may be spiritually, and whether it is that I didn't even know that it was bothering me to that extent. But whenever it is that my professor paused for that moment of silence, it just allowed me to understand that there is somewhat of a translation occurring for me, not only in congregational care, but in an intellectual space as well. I'll also say that we also have a slew of opportunities to engage spiritually. I was on the noonday service steering committee, where in which every Wednesday we gather, and it's hosted by a different student group every week, a variety of spiritual practices, right, that can help to develop you by expanding your territory and your horizons on something that you may not have been privy to. But through that noonday service, you're able to see and really enjoy the fact that you are amongst a community that's introducing you to their traditions, as well as we have morning prayers that I usually attend at MIM Church. And so it's on the main campus. And so it's also saying, you know what, I have to accept the extended olive branch that are given to us through opportunities to engage spiritually, because oftentimes they may not be there recognizably, but as you continue to engage with the community, you'll be able to see the opportunities and be able to see, once again, the translatory practices that occur in the classroom that you can take with you, even in your own personal vocation, whether that's religious or non-religious.
I'll hop in. I get to talk about something so exciting, which is as I mentioned, was raised really secular, and so secular in Boston, and Catholicism was a bad word in my house. So imagine my surprise when I have found my community here with a group called Catholic Renewal. So it boggles to my mind to this day, and I still haven't really told my parents yet, but they know I'm towing around. But there's so many pockets of people and different groups, and you'll find your people. I think that's been a big thing for me, and it might not be where you thought it was. It clearly wasn't for me. But also, to what Talon was saying, there's such a culture of care. There's so much love and action, and it has taught me. I hadn't even realized this till I'm thinking about it now, live on camera. But how being around people who really exhibit love and action has taught me how to better care. And that to me is such a deep spiritual practice. I'll also say, Talon mentioned, yes, noon service, morning prayers. There's an ecumenical Eucharist on every Tuesday morning. There's, just to name some more of the spaces to be embodied, there's ecstatic dance. I think on Thursday nights, there's joyous noise group. So there's just pockets, and you'll try out a whole bunch of them, and then you'll start to find, oh, this is feeling really good, or oh. So, and the last thing I'll say in terms of the classroom, just a particular example was Stephanie Paulsell's Thomas Merton class I took my first semester. So beautiful. So there was a lot of encouragement to write into your own spirituality, to connect. So there are pockets, large pockets indicate small, but there's swaths, I will say, of spaces also within the classroom, in certain classes with certain professors, that really encourage you to connect what's happening here with what's happening in your reading or in your papers, and a lot of space.
Thanks both for responding to that. I was just thinking about how Harvard may seem like a silver spoon, but you're not necessarily going to get fed by that silver spoon. You really do have to do the work yourself. And as Madeline was saying, find the people that really resonate with you. I think that was another one of my surprises in the first year. It's like, wait, where are the mentors? Where are my thought partners? Who's going to care for me? And really, they're there. But they sort of take form, in my experience, in these sort of self-initiated groups, student groups. It does happen in the classroom as well. As can be expected, every professor has their style. And so if you're really into like textual study, then find the professors that do that. If you're needing some like contemplative practice, then find the professors who do that. And I've also found that professors are often, usually in my experience, very willing to be flexible on the projects and the papers that you write within classes. So if you're wanting to really attend to more spiritual development or embodiment or practice-based material, then do that. Talk with your professors and find a way to manifest your interests. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
A couple of questions coming in from folks who are on the line with us right now. The first one is a question about why did you choose the MDiv over the MTS, and which of the two programs better prepare one for candidacy and studies in a doctoral program? I have my opinions about that, but I want to let you all speak first, and then maybe I'll say something.
I'd say for me, what it is that drew me more so to the Master of Divinity program is that what is required opposed to the MTS and the MDiv is that you have to do two field education placements. And so that's saying that you have time to really develop those practical skill sets that are needed for you to be effective in quote unquote the real world. Whereas the MTS is going to help you, of course, and both of them essentially help you with your writing and, of course, getting the I would say, the reservoir of intellectualism that you need to go into a PhD program. But the MDiv is going to help you more practically than the MTS is going to more so focus on the theological, intellectual, theoretical training that you need to either go teach or enter into a PhD program.
I would echo that. I chose MDiv A because I wanted more time. I knew I needed that extra year to sort of figure out what I was doing, and I'm so glad I did. The practicality was really enticing to me. I don't know if this is true, but I feel like the incredible MTSs I know either come in with a pretty like academic path that they're wanting to follow, and or they have a pretty specified interest that they're like ready to spend the 2 years delving into. But I don't know, Stephanie, would you say that that's true? I'm going to turn it over.
I think so. That's been my sense as well. I also have known a few people who've chosen that MTS program because they don't want to be here for 3 years. It is a long haul and it's intense. I'm feeling that in my third year, especially with the thesis project. And so it just also depends what your life situation is. But I think also the line of work that I've been interested in, especially now that I'm interested in chaplaincy, requires an MDiv. So also it's just interesting to think about. And actually I would not really have discovered chaplaincy and been able to explore that had I not been in the MDiv program, because I've been able to do a chaplaincy internship or field education and explore that and just discern if that felt like a good path for me.
We've got a number of questions on that point right there, so we're going to come back to it. But I do want to answer the first question in a different way, and to say that there are MDiv students who intend on and will pursue PhD studies. So it's not that you can't pursue PhD studies out of an MDiv. However, usually those students are folks who see their vocation as being some kind of combination of academic teaching and ministerial leadership of some kind or another. So they want the MDiv because they know that their work is going to straddle that divide. They're not simply pursuing the production of knowledge. They know they're going to be some kind of practitioner. But for students who know that the life of the academy and scholarly work is their calling, the MTS is designed to prepare those students. And what I mean by that is what you're choosing to pursue as an MDiv versus an MTS student is different. As an MTS student, you choose an area of focus and you pursue mastery in that area of focus. It's content driven. You are pursuing knowledge in a particular area, whether that's a geographical location, whether it's a particular religious tradition, whether it's a particular human phenomenon, whether it's a particular idea, right? You're pursuing information, knowledge, theory, insight on that topic. As an MDiv student, you're not trying to master a subject matter. You're really trying to master yourself. As an MDiv student, what you're doing is you're investing in the crafting of your capacity to respond to various forms of world challenges using your gifts and your calling to really make a difference in the lives of communities and societies and so on. And so as an MDiv student, you might be interested in a particular topic, but you need a certain kind of capacity that you're going to get by taking a different class. So you'll see MDiv students selecting courses that are a little more varied in terms of topic, whereas an MTS student is going to say, that's my subject matter. And by the time I'm done my 2 years, I'm going to know as much as I can about that subject matter. And so that's the kind of clarity of focus you want to have when you apply to a PhD program. And they ask you, do you know the field? As an MTS student, you're going to say, yeah, I know the field. So that's to answer that question. But in our last question, and this is the big one, people want to hear about field ed. It's such a major part of the MDiv program that we really would be remiss if we didn't close with field ed. And I want to start with you, Stephanie, because we do have one specific question about chaplaincy. And I'm not sure, you did hospital chaplaincy, correct? Or was it higher ed chaplaincy?
I actually did my first unit in a retirement home, but I'm starting another program tomorrow, actually in a hospital.
Okay, so if you could talk a little bit about pursuing hospital and palliative care chaplaincy, how do you find these locations? People ask, how do you get connected to a site? Just how does that all work? And then after Stephanie, I want Madeline and Taylor, if you could share also what you all have done for field ed. Actually, I want to go Taylor, and I want to finish with Madeline because your field ed experiences have been very HDS. So and you'll see what I mean when we get there. All right, Stephanie, go ahead. Tell them about chaplaincy in hospitals and nursing home settings.
Yeah. So the field education program, there's a lot of students here who are interested in chaplaincy. So even just talking to students who have gone through CPE or clinical pastoral education, which is the formal program that you go through in order to become a chaplain. You have to do several units of CPE in order to become board certified. So you're actually entering the CPE program, which is sort of beyond Harvard, but you can use that experience as field education through Harvard. And I mean, HDS has a lot of resources for how to connect. There are several big hospitals, as you can expect, in Boston that have a limited amount of positions available. So actually the hospitals in Boston, you may find are a little bit more competitive to get into those programs, but there are so many wonderful opportunities beyond those spaces as well. For example, last summer I did a CPE program in New Hampshire at a retirement home. And they offered housing as well, which is unusual, but that felt like a really great opportunity to explore a non-hospital setting. And then this year I'll be working in Beverly Hospital, which is on the North Shore of Boston. So Yeah, I think I found these resources by talking to students, getting recommendations. How is the supervisor? How is the cohort? Did the specific program work for you? Because it really is important to not just get a great big hospital recommendation or a reference on your resume, but to really find the right program that suits you and your aspirations and desires. Is there something I'm missing, Dean Teddy? Was there another question to respond to in there? Okay, cool, great. I'll leave it there.
All right, Taylor, how have your field ed experiences been so far?
Yes, this past summer, I got the opportunity to go to Liberia, Monrovia, Liberia, through the Certificate of Religion and Public Life program. And I was out there for 26 days working with an organization called Kids Educational Engagement Project, which was an incredible experience, and just really gave me an opportunity to go into the uncharted territory and look at the humanitarian system from another worldview. As well as now this semester, I am utilizing my pastorate at Third Baptist Church in Springfield to fulfill my field education requirement. And I'm being supervised through my convention, which is the United Baptist Convention, which is my church is affiliated with and has been affiliated with for years. And so one is more so within my present context, and one I did internationally. And so both of those experiences provided me with really the aptitude to, I feel as though, go into any space and contribute in meaningful ways.
I didn't know these things about you too. It's so exciting. Okay. Oh, I love field ed so much. I feel like I'm a field ed poster child because I so believe in it. I did 3 placements. You only need 2. Dean Teddy, correct me if I'm doing misinformation, and one of them has to be academic, a full academic year, but then the other one can be a summer placement. I think that's right. So I did 3 because I like field ed so much. And the reason why I like field ed so much is because there's an option called student initiated, which means that you can develop your own program and your own field ed. And this was so exciting for me. So the 3 that I did in a nutshell, the first I did this really wild but exciting for me theater project. Stephanie came up to Maine to come see it within my community, called The Anchorite, and I got to make a piece of theater and put it in a church and do these long sittings for people to come in and visit. And it was just such a gift to have that space of exploration, but also sort of the accountability to make something. And the second one I did, which was this past academic year, was at an organization called the BTS Center up in Portland, Maine. They are working at the crux of spirituality and climate change. And what I'll just say about that quickly is, even if there's a great site list, and BTS Center is now on that site list, but if there's somewhere you really want to work, there are ways sometimes to work there. BTS was not a registered site when I went there, and I just found them, and I loved their organization, and OMS was able to work with me and the BTS Center to make that possible as a field ed site. And most recently this summer, I did a field ed student initiated again, designing and facilitating climate workshops within my own locality, which was such a gift. And again, just an opportunity for me to go back to the place that I call home and give back and be of service and be able to really stretch in creative ways, but also in terms of deepening all the things I learned in the classroom, I could put into a lived experience. So yeah, go field ed, go.
Thank you all so much. And I did want to add to that question a couple of notes. One, that if you're interested in clinical chaplaincy in hospital settings, palliative care settings, field education does not require that you enter the CPE program or the clinical pastoral education program, but it's highly advised for people who want to do that work. And as Stephanie said, it is run by an outside organization, the ACPE, the Association of Clinical Pastoral Education. But we are a part of a consortium. So Harvard Divinity School is a part of the Boston Theological Interreligious Consortium, the BTI. And it's a collection of schools in the Boston area that are either theological schools or religion departments or seminaries or divinity schools. So it includes Boston College, Boston University, Gordon Conwell, Hartford International, Hebrew College, Hellenic College, Holy Cross, St. John's, and also the Boston Islamic Seminary is an associate member while they go through accreditation. As soon as they get their accreditation, they'll be a full member. And what that means is you can take courses at any of those schools as a Harvard Divinity School student. If there's something that another school does better than us or has more professors who are experts in a certain area, you can go and take those courses. But the other thing we do is we help support each other with things that affect all of our students, like CPE. So on the Boston Theological Interreligious Consortium website, there's a whole section for CPE. It tells you what CPE is. It talks about a guide for how to think about CPE and how to choose a CPE site. It gives you an introduction to the Association for CPE and what that is. And then there are videos, very short introductory videos to some of the more popular sites in the Boston area that our students go on to work at, including Beverly Hospital, where Stephanie will be at her upcoming site. So there's some things that we do very, very well as HDS. And there are some things that we don't do well on our own, and we need to partner with our colleagues at these other institutions to make sure that our students get both the best we have to offer and also the best that they have to offer. So that's another thing that I wanted to mention that is a part of the larger picture here, that no one school can provide everyone everything they need, especially not at HDS when we have such a diverse student body. And I do want to stress that because of the diversity of HDS, we can't resource every single person's interests at a full maximum level degree, because everyone's too unique. Everyone is far too specific and too beautifully strange for that. We would need like 1,000 professors if we were to cover all of the interests of our students. And what that means is that while we can't do that, the benefit is that you're a part of a very unique educational environment. And I would say that our number one offering as an educational institution is the community. And I think you've seen a little bit of that tonight, that the best thing we do as Harvard Divinity School is we attract incredible students like these three, and we put you all in the same place at the same time, and we sit back sometimes and just watch magic happen. So if that's what you're looking for and that's what you're into, we certainly welcome you to continue your investigation and to get more information. And of course, you can always contact me directly if you have further questions about the MDiv program, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. So with that, we want to thank you for your time, and we'll turn it back over to Margaret.
Thank you so much, Dean Teddy, and to the panelists. And thank you all to the audience for spending time with us and learning a little bit more. As we shared, we're all available to you. If you want to reach out to us, please feel free to do so, as well as connect with us at future events. I wish you all wellness, and I hope you have a great evening. Thanks again.
Thank you.